So remember that this is just practice. I'm gonna have you guys turn in the worksheet and I will go over the rest so you know how well you did on the other problems as well. Extending the place value. This here is a chart and it shows how strips and squares extend infinitely in both directions. So here we have one strip makes 10, and then we drop down and one square makes 10, and then we drop down again. And then underneath we have 10 strips make 1, then we go to the left and 10 squares make 1. And here we have 10 strips make 1. So we're kind of going in a circle here. Extending place value system, 2400s, 5 tens, and 1 unit, or we can have 245 tens and 1 unit, or we can have 2405 ones. Either way we spin it, twist it, flip it, dip it, they all mean the same thing. So again, we have 2400s, 5 tens, and 1 unit, or we can have 245 tens and 1 unit, or we can have 2,451 ones, and they all mean the same thing. So the role of the decimal point. The decimal placement indicates the position of the unit. So now we're going to focus on unit. So here we have superstrips, we have squares, we have strips, and we have tinies to represent different units here. And each of these expressions represent the amount that is shown here. We'll take a second and look at that. So the role of the decimal point. It is important to know that decimal points mark the location of the unit's place, and adding zeros to the left of a whole number or to the right of a decimal fraction will not change the value of the number. So there is no set reason why a certain position should be chosen to be the unit or the ones position. So here we have a clip about connecting fractions and decimals to try to make this a little easier. So let's check out this introductory clip.
When you were a kid, things were simple. A is for apple. B is for ball. You learned to count. 1, 2, 3. You learned to add. But you can't always have your apple and eat it too. Someone had to come along and introduce fractions.
Then when you think you've got everything under control, they throw in decimals.
And as if that wasn't hard enough, they toss in percents.
Fractions, decimals, percents, oh my. It's hard juggling everything you need to know about these concepts.
But you know what? They're really just different ways of looking at the same concept.
They're all ratios. You can substitute a fraction for a decimal. A decimal for a percent. A percent for a fraction. You get the picture?
Juggling your knowledge of fractions, decimals, and percents may seem difficult, but it's amazing what you can do once you have the right skills.
All right, so let's move on here. So connecting fractions and decimals, here we have another chart, and each place value position has its own name. It has its own name. So the placement of the decimal point can determine the length of the unit. So here we have different units. We have kilometer, hectometer, decameter, meter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. So here we're in the meters, and here we're working with the millimeters. And if we go to the left, we're now working with kilometers, and at the bottom here we have centimeters. So in actuality, here we have 3 meters, 8 decimeters, and 5 centimeters, which actually equals this here. Connecting fractions and decimals. So here we have 3 important steps that we need to follow in order to make this possible. So first one being, you want to write down the decimal, divide it by 1, multiply both top and the bottom by 10 for every number after the decimal point, and then at the end we're going to simplify the fraction. So here we have an example where we need to convert 0.75 to a fraction. So now we're going to write down 0.75 divided by 1, which is shown here. And step 2, we're going to multiply both the top and the bottom 100 because there are 2 digits after the decimal point. So here is that equation here. Which shows how it turns the top number into a whole number. So at the bottom here, we're going to simplify this equation, which is 75 over 100 minus 15 over 20, which then converts to 3 over 4. So our answer is 3/4. So now we have an activity. We're going to play a game this time so we can get some more practice in. For this game, what I want you to do is you're each going to have 2 dice. You're going to choose one number for the numerator and one number for the denominator. So the first number that you roll is going to be the top number here, and the second number that you roll is going to be the bottom number here. So again, the first one's going to be the numerator and the bottom one is going to be the denominator. And what you're going to do is now convert this fraction into a decimal just as we did on the previous slide. So again, remember, you want to pay attention to these steps here. You want to write down the decimal, divide it by 1. Then step 2, you want to multiply both top and the bottom by 10 for every number after the decimal point, and then I want you to simplify the fraction. So we're not going to worry about this step. I'm not going to make you guys round it, but I want you guys to simplify. So now it is time for our exit ticket. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 4 different types of tickets this time. You're going to pick up one and you're going to make sure you leave the pile face down. It doesn't matter to me which pile you choose from. Just make sure they stay face down so that you have no idea which one you're picking, which ticket you're picking. So each ticket is going to look a little different. We have one ticket where I'm asking you to use vocabulary. So what is the value of 2 in 3.902? So wherever the line is underneath, that is where I want you to tell me the place value is. So here we have base 10 representation. So what decimal number is shown here? So just think about our place value slide at the beginning. So here's our decimal. This is our decimal indicator here. And I want you to simply tell me what this means, what these numbers mean here. And for the next one, we have equivalence. So you're going to write a decimal that is equivalent to 1.3. And for the next one, this too also is another vocabulary where I need you to tell me where what these place values are. And for our homework tonight, we have another worksheet that goes over converting fractions and decimals, which we just went over again. So I will pass out a copy of the steps for fractions and decimal converting, and you will need to complete this homework for tonight, and then we will go over the answers tomorrow in class.